Senator McGrath, again, what does my head in right is that the Australian media prides themselves on being smart enough to know when they're being used to send a message, right? So they'd be sceptical about a company that turns around and says, hey, research has shown that our product is the best one to buy. They would be sceptical about a political party saying, this polling is really good for us. But no scepticism whatsoever, and essentially the ultimate puff done on this sort of stuff, this attempt to get below the radar, to make it seem like it's an appeal to people, to normal people, and again, plenty of people being played by all of this, and they're being played by Beijing.
Oh, totally. You're on the money here, and the mind boggles when you think that the media, the Channel 9 media, must really think we're a bunch of idiots.
Correct.
In terms of what they're up to at the moment. Like, there's two words that should be on everyone's tongue at the moment, and that is Hong Kong. Look at what is happening to Hong Kong. In fact, us talking about China and criticising China tonight means, under those laws that were passed last week in China, if we go to Hong Kong and do Paul Murray Live from somewhere in Hong Kong or the floating markets, all four of us could end up in the clinker, not in Hong Kong, but somewhere in China. So this is a real worry. And Jim's on the money. We've got to stand up for our values. We can't kowtow to China. We trade with them, but if once we weaken, they'll stomp all over us.
Well, this is it. I mean, can we get to Joel Fitzgibbon and what he was saying about all of this today? Of course, well, unsurprisingly, he got in there and he decided to do the whole we must manage the relationship garbage, which, of course, echoes like what? Sounds like what? It sounds like the very think tanks that the federal government defunded. Remember, they defunded from taxpayer money, think tanks that were going in there that apparently had too many connections back to China. The very next day, they were in there at Shadow Cabinet telling Albo and all the other Labor people to shut up. Right? How many times do you need to see this to see who is being played and who is already too far gone? Another example, Joel Fitzgibbon.
We have to take no step backwards on our national interest and be most robust in defence of them. But there's a thing called diplomacy, and we don't unnecessarily have to be criticising the government of China when there's no need to be doing so. And, you know, the idea of sending UN weapon-style inspectors into Wuhan without the consent of the Chinese government is just a silly thing to say, an unnecessary thing to say, and it just challenges our trading relationship with our biggest trading partner.
Now, get ready, Australia. You're going to see that grab a lot this week, because if we didn't have by-elections, if we didn't have people being locked up in their homes, I would have done 20 minutes on that. That 15 seconds alone. Jim, that's frightening. Like, we don't want to unnecessarily criticise China for no reason. Has he not seen what's happening in Hong Kong? Has he not seen what's happening to our own people? Has he not seen the whole myriad of things, cyber attacks, all the rest of it? Instead, he goes on the national broadcaster and essentially makes it sound like we're provoking everything. It's all made up. It's a whole bunch of hawks like your good self inside the party and blokes like me trying to whip up the Prime Minister and to take on China. No, we're responding to the aggression of the other guy.
Absolutely, and now we're being forced into a situation where we have to consider the provision of humanitarian visas for something in the order of 20,000 people. The Brits are considering 3 million people. What Joel has come out and done in setting up this ridiculous straw man of an unnecessarily criticising and the kind of situations that he portrays, which were never the basis of what was said at the time, is he's setting up a straw man, then he's heroically, as the Labor Party does 3 times a day, heroically bowling over a straw man that didn't really exist in the first place. But, there's a lot of good things that Joel says. He speaks about a couple of good things. He likes a bit of coal every now and again. But the Labor Party has a deep, deep problem in this area. They're coming out of their climate change area, their climate change problem by agreeing with our technology roadmap, but they are nowhere near it on security and on military and defence. But it's this thing, again, Liz, Lowy Institute poll a couple of weeks ago, 84% of Australians believe there should be a greater stand-up, frankly, to China, including things like, restrictions on the types of people who can come here and things, all of those things, right? That's the first thing. Secondly, literally, you've got the donations issues.
Secondly, you've got, again, the institute that was defunded by the federal government because it doesn't meet the mark, walking into shadow cabinet telling them all, when presented with two options of speaking up against a country that is doing what China's doing versus saying nothing, say nothing. And guess what? Joel Fitzgibbon goes on television, and one more time, can we play the grab again? I'm telling you, I'm going to play the heck out of this week because this is a disgrace. You want to know why Labor's vote went down on Saturday? You can hypothesise up, hill and down, Dale, about all of the different things. It's because these are the people whose national values are being expressed every day, and people aren't stupid. People do not fall for what's on Twitter. They see what they can see with their own eyes and they believe their own bloody ears. Roll the tape.
We have to take no step backwards on our national interest and be most robust in defence of them. But there's a thing called diplomacy, and we don't unnecessarily have to be criticising the government of China when there's no need to be doing so. And, you know, the idea of sending UN weapon-style inspectors into Wuhan without the consent of the Chinese government is just a silly thing to say, an unnecessary thing to say, and it just challenges our trading relationship with our biggest trading partner.
Again, Liz, when there's no reason to do so. There's a virus that's killed 534,000 people.
Yeah, this is the same guy who in May was lashing the government for heading the charge to get an inquiry into this thing. This is the same guy who on several occasions has told everyone, settle down, stop offending China. We're demonising, he said, we're demonising their system of government. What isn't to demonise about a country who, for starters, it is a communist dictatorship. We're talking about a communist party that is, as we speak, committing genocide under our noses by sterilising Uyghur women en masse. We are talking about a country that is now openly threatening Australia. All you have to do, you don't have to make this stuff up. If you just read the headlines, whether it's cyber warfare, whether it's soft trade warfare, whether it's this budding Cold War with the US, whether it's Taiwan, Hong Kong, the skirmish on the Indian border, movements in the South China Sea, and this guy who's supposed to be representing Australians, clearly not the 84% in that poll, Paul, this guy who's supposed to be representing Australians is literally going out there and telling us, would everyone please stop offending these guys?
Yeah.
If they want to be offended by the truth, we're not sorry. Hashtag sorry, not sorry, China.
I love you, Donald. Senator McGrath, again, look, we've got other things to move on to, but I just found it breathtaking what was being said on television. But again, how unremarkable all of this stuff is when it's said, and most of the media types just don't even look up. I looked up and I went, hang on, what? Senator McGrath?
Yeah, sorry. What we're seeing here, Joel's just the latest exhibit. It started with Sam Dastyari, so Joel's not like an outlier. The Labor Party have been captured by this pro-China faction. I sort of want to know what planet these people are on. The Parliament of Australia in February last year, according to news reports, came under cyber attack from a state-based actor in China, we're told.
Correct.
The Prime Minister of this country, a couple of weeks ago, did a press conference talking about the attacks, the cyber attacks taking place on Australia. Now, they're not coming from New Zealand, they're not coming from Fiji or the Solomon Islands. They're coming clearly from a large landmass, a country with a population around 1 billion people, to the north west of us. I mean, the Labor Party have got to wake up and smell the Chinese takeaway. We are facing a serious problem here, and stop acting as some sort of second-rate defence agents for the actions of a communist dictatorship. Stand up for Australia.
But also, it's this thing where, look, you know, we've got to be very careful, right? Because they're going to have a million ways to demonise us in this conversation and change the damn subject, okay? And we're not going to fall for any of it. You know and I know that all of this is about standing up for Western values, and Western values include accountability. That's why we decided to push for the inquiry, right? As for the military stuff that's all been happening, you've been seeing this week after week after week after week. And all of these people in the media who turn around and will write, you know, oh, goodness me, the Prime Minister just said something about a cyber attack, or isn't this amazing about a New South Wales MP being investigated, being raided by ASIO and the Federal Police. This all happened in the past 2 weeks. Oh, but there's nothing to criticise China about. Hong Kong.